Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here to show you how you could tighten up your bass tracks like a pro. So without any further ado, I'm gonna play two audio samples and I want you to listen closely to the bass guitar. So sample number one. All right, so sample number two. Again, once more, sample number one. Okay, for the last time, sample number two. So I don't know about you, but that second sample is like nails on a chalkboard to me. The bass is just super duper muddy. It almost ruins the kick drum sound in a way. Definitely not working with the guitars and definitely not working with the drums at all. There's just something very off about it. And the second sample is the complete opposite. The bass is super crisp, works really well with the kick drum. The guitars and bass gel very well. They're both clear and you can understand every single little note that's being played. Nothing is stepping on top of one another. And the question is, what's the difference? What is the difference between the two samples? And here's the thing, it has nothing to do with EQ. It has nothing to do with compression. It actually has nothing to do with mixing. It comes down to proper editing. Now, this is why I absolutely cringe when I'm online and people are talking editing, saying it's ruining music and all this crazy stuff. The truth is, in the real world, all professional engineers edit their tracks. This is just the reality of modern metal. This has been going on for decades, even before digital existed, when they were slicing tape. And I want to just quickly dispel the myth that if you edit your tracks are going to sound like a robot. It is not true. You can edit in a tasteful manner where your tracks still have the original feel of the original performance. They're just way tighter and way clearer, and they just gel perfectly with the other instruments. So with that being said, let's take a look at the track that wasn't sounding right, the one that was just very loosey-goosey and just not tight at all. Let's listen to it one more time. Again, that bass sound is just not working for me. And again, it's the same exact bass sound. There's no difference in tone at all. It's the exact same compression, EQ, everything. It all comes down to the editing. So let's take a look here. Now, the reason why you see two bass guitar tracks is they are the exact same performance. One is the regular bass sound, the other one is the distorted bass sound. So I have them both grouped, so I'm editing both at the exact same time, but they're the same exact performance. So if you look at the kick drums, they're all nice and tight. They're right on with the 16th notes. The bass guitar is pushing the beat. Now, when it comes time to editing your bass guitar tracks, there are two things you want to pay attention to. Performances that are pushing the beat and dead space that should be removed in order to clean up the sound of the track. This particular track has both problems. The bass performance is pushing the beat in certain spots, and also there's just a bunch of string noise happening in between the dead silence of the guitar tracks. Now, this style of metal is more of like a djenty kind of thing, so the performance should be very, very tight. Now, even if you're working on some other subgenre of metal where it doesn't have to be insanely machine gun tight, utilizing this approach will do nothing but help your productions, trust me. Okay, so if you look here, we have a bunch of kick drum hits, and all of our kick drums are 16th notes, and they're all nice and locked in and in time. Our bass is not. It is pushing the beat all over the place. If you look here, these first four 16th notes. So right here is my first 16th note on my bass guitar. Here's my second 16th note, my third 16th note, and my fourth 16th note. All of these are pushing way ahead of the kick drum, and we have to fix that. You could sit here and mix all night long. If your tracks are looking like this, they will not sound right. Trust me. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look and see how much of my bass track here is ahead of the beat. It looks like everything up till about here is pushing the 16th notes of the kick drum. If I'm working with a tight drum performance, I base all of my bass guitar editing off of my kick drum. This is why I had the kick drum sat right above my bass track, so that way when it comes time to edit my bass, I could use my kick drum as a reference. Okay, so right here, I'm gonna split my audio file and I'm gonna move all of these bass 16th notes to match the 16th notes on my kick drum. Let's check this out. Okay, so if you notice now, the 16th notes on my bass are locked in with the 16th notes on my kick drum. So let's listen to just the beginning part of the riff and let's see if we could hear a difference. Let's check this out. Okay, so the beginning sounds good now, but if you notice, the later 16th notes sound like they're pushing the beat as well. So let's fix those. So I'm gonna make an edit here, and I'm going to nudge back these hits. And now that's nudged back a little too much. Okay, so let's listen to the intro and those extra little bits of 16th notes right after the beginning. Let's check it out. Yes, and these notes are pushing the beat as well. So let's slide these back. Now, it doesn't matter what DAW you're using, the concepts are the same. You're nudging your bass tracks to be pocketed against your kick drum. So they're either dead on with the kick or maybe even slightly behind, but not pushing the kick. When your bass tracks are pushing your kick drum is when they start to sound weird and you have that uncomfortable, for me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I feel that the track isn't sitting right. Now, early in my career, when I get that feeling, I would always think it was a mix issue without even thinking about if it's a performance issue. And in this case, it's definitely a performance issue, not a mix issue. So, okay, so now I have all of that nudged backwards. Let's listen to what we have. Okay, so all of that sounds good now in terms of timing. It all sounds pocketed. It's all hitting nice and hard, but I hear some weird resonance happening in between the hits. So let's listen to the bass track on its own and see what's happening there. Okay, so right around here, you hear that resonance that's happening in between the hits? We have to get rid of all that because that's gonna really take away from the impact of the entire performance. So let's tighten that up and get rid of all that extra resonance that we really don't need. All right, so right in here, we don't need that, don't need that, and we definitely don't need that. All right, so let's hear what we got. Okay, so that first stop's a little too tight, so I'm just gonna drag this out. Let's check it out again. Okay, and all of this is way ahead as well, so I'm gonna drag all of this back. Okay, so now the 16th notes in the second repetition are matching my kick drum. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna get rid of this resonance that we do not need. Good. Okay, and these mutes at the end are actually behind the beat. So I'm again gonna move these to match the kick drum as well. And now our last note is actually ahead of the beat. So I'm gonna move this guy back. So these last few hits here, this is on, this is on, this is on, and this is ahead. So I'm gonna make a split, move it over. There you go. Dead space, dead space. Okay, so now that I've got all of my nudging out of the way and I've gotten rid of all of that ugly resonance that was happening in between the stops, let's listen to what we have. Okay, infinitely better, and I did not have to touch a single EQ or compressor or anything, not even a fader. Okay, so once you're done with all your edits, you wanna crossfade your audio. So I'm gonna highlight all of my clips here. Okay, so I keep my crossfade set to 5 milliseconds across the board. All my fade-ins, fade-outs, and crossfades are all 5 milliseconds. For me, it does the trick, so give it a shot. All of my edits contain crossfades. Okay, so before I wrap up this video, I just wanna quickly play the unedited version so you could hear how much of a massive difference this little bit of editing makes. Okay, so one last time, here is the unedited version. Damn! And now the edited version. Okay, so there you have it. This is how you tighten up your bass tracks like a pro. This is why I absolutely cannot stand when I see people without experience in forums telling beginners that they shouldn't be editing their tracks. You know, because if they're working on, real music, you shouldn't have to edit real music. Well, unfortunately, in the real world, you have to do whatever it takes to achieve the result that you want to achieve. This is why pro producers and engineers take the time to do things like this. The resulting sound is just way tighter, way cleaner, just way more compelling within the production. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon in order to be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both like and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. And don't forget to download my free quick EQ guide that contains all my EQ settings that I always return to when I start a mix. There is a link below within this video's description. Till next time, happy editing.